Why did they have to fight, Grandma?
Well, you see, there were these people called the Democrats who were trying to ruin our way of life. And it was a wonderful way of life. It lifted millions of people out of poverty, and it gave hope to generations of children just like you all.
Who were they?
At first, they were the veterans that fought our wars. But since the Democrats continued to try to ruin the future of our children, all of the parents had to get involved.
How did they do it, Grandma?
Well, the first thing they did was they showed us how to get organized. Then they taught us how to fight. And after that, well, they showed us how to win.
Well, weren't they scared?
Of course they were, sweetie. But a crime against tyranny is duty.
What Democrats need to realize, first and foremost, is that they are no longer dealing with 17-year-old lifeguards. As a father, veteran, and a law-abiding citizen, these are the top issues that I would like Democrats to deal with. 1, stop molesting and grooming children.
Is it normal to watch porn? Yes, it's normal. Lots of people watch porn. After all, it's right there and it's free.
2, stop cheating in elections.
Trump is in red, Biden is in blue. Notice the sudden and improbable spike in votes for Biden at 6:30 a.m., where Biden received 141,258 votes, while Trump only received 5,968.
3, stop being incompetent in your handling of the economy.
President Biden's student loan bailout plan erases debt for some Americans now, only to be back at the same level within 4 years.
Stocks tumbling Friday after the Federal Reserve hiked interest rates yet again, and recession fears grow.
And the Dow falls to its lowest point since November 2020, with big banks warning the U.S. economy could be entering stagflation.
A lot of those on the left will even try to emulate the tactics and strategies that are going to be laid out here. However, there is one fundamental flaw in their thinking. They only stand up when people are not fighting back. They will get upset over Americans standing up to their socialist, communist, and fascist ideologies, but they need to be taught with a very firm hand that what they want this country to be and what we have built it to be are two opposing ideologies that have never before existed together in history. In fact, for the last 150 years, history has one way of handling this scenario. One group lines the other group along a ditch, then proceeds to blow their brains out. Every time socialists have sought power, that is the conclusion. I'm going to tell you how we are going to win. I am even going to tell you what we are going to do. And it will not make a difference, because for the Democratic Party, there is no pathway to victory when good men stand up to protect this nation. I do not see Democrats as my countrymen anymore. Their delusions are antithetical to American life. As a people, we have invested way too much in this nation, for us to go down with the sinking ship known as the Democrat Party. Let's force them into a small lifeboat and sink it while we sail away into the sunset. Figuratively, of course. Here are 3 incredibly good reasons why actual Americans should be upset. 1. COVID.
Now to growing concerns about the deadly coronavirus officially hitting the U.S. Here's what we know. A Washington state resident fell ill after returning from Wuhan, China, where the outbreak began. Officials now say more than 400 people have been sickened and 9 people have died.
You think about it, the coronavirus crisis is changing so fast that these maps can't keep up.
When COVID first hit the airwaves in January 2020, I was honestly very indifferent. We had seen the same reaction before with SARS, H1N1, and so forth. But then Trump shut down the air travel to Europe and China. I thought, okay, maybe there is something to this.
Tonight, I want to speak with you about our nation's unprecedented response to the coronavirus outbreak that started in China and is now spreading throughout the world. Today, the World Health Organization officially announced that this is a global pandemic.
So I started my own brief analysis to see what actions I should take to protect my family. First, I looked at which countries had the best health systems to handle this type of crisis. North America, most of Western Europe, Japan. Okay, now which parts of the world didn't? South America, Africa, Eastern Europe, Middle East, Southeast Asia. Got it. So, how are these less equipped regions doing? Oh, they're doing fine. Well, then we will be okay. Shut down.
Major cities across the country are looking more like ghost towns.
Here is what we know right now. The mayor here in New York City is warning that a shelter-in-place order could take hold in the next day or 2.
Lockdown.
Ohio shutting down public schools for 3 weeks. Maryland schools closed for 2. Also, New Mexico, Michigan, and Oregon schools. California now banning all gatherings of 250 people or more. And New York City's mayor declaring a state of emergency.
Mask.
The public should be wearing masks outside. Dr. Anthony Fauci of the National Institutes of Health. He's a key member of the president's coronavirus task force. And we spoke before the president announced the recommendation from the CDC that people use a cloth or fabric mask outside.
49 governors closed their states' economies. For you math wizards out there, that means all but 1. In fact, out of all the governors, there was only 1 who decided that the Constitution was more important than her political career.
But joining me now is a governor who refused to give in to the left's demands and lockdown requests, Governor Kristi Noem of South Dakota.
After the initial shock and things started to relax, something hilarious started to happen. Only Democrats were dying and only Democrats were locked down.
And in hard-hit New York, a milestone, more than 10,000 deaths.
Then the stories of nursing home scandals.
Tonight, New York Governor Andrew Cuomo, once hailed for his leadership at the start of the pandemic, now under fire. Today, his office defending its decision last spring to return COVID patients to nursing homes.
The false attributions and the daily death counters from the media, which all stopped immediately when Joe Biden was elected. Then we moved into the vaccine phase of the lies and manipulations.
Pfizer, a frequent advertiser on this broadcast.
I believe that by the time we get to the end of this calendar year, that we will feel comfortable that we do have a safe and effective vaccine.
Forced vaccinations from companies that immediately sought legal amnesty against long-term side effects.
The Delta variant continues its rapid spread. But now many companies, large and small, are now instituting vaccine mandates to try to help return their businesses to normal.
But then after the vaccinations go out, people keep getting COVID. So they add boosters, which add more variants. Then the idiots that got the vaccine are actually complaining about getting COVID from people that are not vaccinated, who are not actually getting COVID.
More protection against the latest variant this coming winter.
Remember polio? Remember smallpox? Remember when you got the vaccines for these viruses and all of a sudden no one would get the disease? That's because when you get a vaccine, you cannot receive or transmit a virus because your body kills it. So if you have the COVID vaccine with the COVID boosters, how are you still receiving and transmitting the virus? Because it is not a vaccine. What you have effectively done is convince people that taking a long-term symptom suppressant will save their lives. Congratulations, we politicized Tylenol. And if that hasn't got your attention, according to several media pundits, the 2020 election was the most secure in world history.
On Capitol Hill today, Christopher Krebs, who was the country's top cybersecurity official on Election Day, told a Senate panel this presidential election was the most secure in U.S. history.
Let me walk you through a few inconvenient facts. During the 2020 election, Joe Biden won fewer counties than any Democrat victor in history. Trump won more counties than any Republican loser in history. Interesting. So how did they do it? The reason all the tabulations in the contested states came in after midnight were that they needed to make sure not to insert too many fake ballots as to outnumber the total number of voters and thereby raise red flags. The Republican Party will overwhelmingly take back the House, with probably historic results. However, thanks to the 17th Amendment, senators are elected in statewide elections, which can be controlled and manipulated by a very select and very corrupt group of individuals. These election officials are the ones responsible for the 2020 election fraud and how the Democrats will maintain control of the Senate in the 2022 midterms. Although it can happen almost anywhere, I am highly suspicious of these election commissioners. The tactics vary from importing in Philadelphia to just Xeroxing in Fulton, but the results are the same. Delay until midnight of Election Day, then verify how many votes are needed to add that number to the totals without exceeding the total number of voters, and thereby raise a red flag. Simple. So simple, it's amazing that it avoided federal oversight. It would be nice if we had a law enforcement division that was responsible for investigating these issues and putting citizens' minds at ease. If only. Remember, the Senate and governor races are statewide. So for 2022, anywhere there is a contested race, look at the Democrat strongholds in those states and you will first see an untimely delay in the recording of votes and then a surprise increase in the vote totals for Democrat candidates when you wake up in the morning. In the last 10 presidential elections, there have only been 3 large shifts in the House of Representatives. Reagan won 16 seats in 1984. When Obama won in 2008, the Democrats gained 24 seats by winning the popular vote by over 9 million. But when they win with over 7 million votes in 2020, they managed to lose 13 congressional districts. This can only mean that the votes were heavily concentrated. You do not need hackers or high-tech computers or satellites to manipulate elections. You just need these individuals to control statewide elections for the foreseeable future. 3. Handling of the economy. If destroying our institutions and lying to launder money isn't enough, how about just plain old incompetence? But do not worry, my friends. Though our opponents are vile, they are also overwhelmingly incompetent.
My fear is that the whole island will become so overly populated that it will tip over and capsize.
The list of individuals would be too long and detailed for this format, so I will just characterize one. Chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Mark Milley. I choose him because I knew him as a colonel in Baghdad. As a brigade commander, his troops were so undertrained that they were shooting civilians at an alarming rate. His solution? In order to load a round into your weapon, a captain or above had to approve it, even under fire. It goes on from there. Remember Nadal Hassan, the Fort Hood shooter?
13 dead in what appears to be the worst mass shooting ever on a U.S. military base. The rampage's number one suspect is an Army major and mental health professional.
Major Nidal Malik Hassan.
Yeah, well, Mark was a 3-Corps commander at the time, and he was the proponent of the workplace violence narrative versus our troops being attacked by an infiltrated Muslim terrorist. But then he gets on the phone with China.
General Mark Milley admits the reason that he made secret calls to China behind President Trump's back. Yes, General Mark Milley, he's been under fire ever since it was revealed that he made a call to his counterpart in the Chinese military and told them not to worry about President Trump attacking.
Screws up in Afghanistan.
February 26, 2020, House Armed Services Committee, General Mark Milley. We know we're not going to defeat the Taliban militarily, and they're not going to defeat the government of Afghanistan militarily. You really blew that call, didn't you, General?
Goes in front of the Congress telling us how he reads books on white rage.
On the issue of critical race theory, etc., I'll obviously have to get much smarter on whatever the theory is. And I want to understand white rage, and I'm white.
And starts telling the whole world that diversity is our strength.
It doesn't matter if we're male or female, gay or straight, or something in between.
Here's the point. This is not a man that is good at fighting wars. This is a man that is good at getting promoted. Like all men in positions of power, he has surrounded himself with people that are just like him. So as a combat veteran, I am telling you, if the Democrat Party wants an American Civil War, then there is no one better to fight against than men like Mark Milley. So when Brandon jumps up and says,
by a cannon, and for those brave right-wing Americans that say it's all about keeping America's independent and safe, if you want to fight against the country, you need an F-15.
Hey, Joe, you can't fly F-15s without pilots. Our enemies are already conducting terrorist attacks against constitutionally minded Americans, and federal bureaucrats are allowing it to happen. Well, you are about to find out if diversity really is your strength. Powerful teacher unions protect communist professors from facing the music.
Confronting fascism is, in militant ways, is vital to keeping the Republicans in check. The important thing, I think, like as an anti-fascist, and I'm not going to make a whole lot of friends probably, but like I think it's really important to confront fascism on all fronts.
También Angela Davis con su casco de constructora. Para participar a esa entrega, Angela Davis, del carnet de miembro de honor de los CDR que ella está exhibiendo.
A lot of people, when they hear the term pedophile, they automatically assume that it means a sex offender. And that isn't true, and it leads to a lot of misconceptions about attractions toward minors.
The manipulation of young minds is fundamental to the Democrat strategy.
So my class decided to stand but not say the words. Totally fine. Except for the fact that my room does not have a flag. It used to be there, but I took it down during COVID because it made me uncomfortable. In the meantime, I tell this kid, we do have a flag in the class that you can pledge your allegiance to. And he looks around and he goes, oh, that one?
I've been trying to figure out a way to introduce Pride Month to my students, my preschoolers, who are 4 and 5-year-olds. Most of them are 5 now.
Get them young before they can comprehend complex theories and poison their minds to common sense. Let's take a few examples. Do you really think Trump told people to drink Clorox as an antidote to COVID?
And then I see the disinfectant where it knocks it out in a minute.
We came up with what I believe might be a magnificent idea. I'm planning to sell these actually outside the convention. This is the first official MAGA bleach helmet. Okay? You just ship on a Clorox and now fans of Donald Trump can be white on the inside too.
Do you really think that Nazis were right-wing and that Republicans are modern-day fascists when the German acronym for Nazi means National Socialist Workers' Party? Do you really think that we live in a democracy? Then congratulations, you are the target audience of the Democrat Party. Lying and manipulating are not rights protected under the First Amendment.
The sharing of biased and false
news has become all too common on social media.
More alarmingly, some media outlets publish things simply aren't true without checking facts first. Unfortunately, some members of the media use their platforms to push their own personal bias and agenda to control exactly what people think. And this is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
This is extremely dangerous to our democracy.
extremely dangerous to our democracy.
No army can fight without money. And here is how we hit them where it really hurts. The political elite of this nation hide behind guns and technology. Their supporters have neither. Yet the arrogance is hilarious to me.
By taking in ignorant, malevolent garbage on their TV or on the internet or social media, and that virus, it may make you sick from COVID or from ingesting horse medicine, but it most definitely makes you stupid.
We have to figure out how a country can solve any problem if so many of its people are so intractably, astoundingly, mind-numbingly stupid. And I'm not saying that as hyperbole.
It's sort of like someone taunting a lion with a stick after they jump into the cage. Having fought against an insurgency, I learned a few things. There are 3 rules that each of you must abide by. These are monumentally important and must always be adhered to. 1. Have a plan. 2. No hard targets. Number 3. If you need the first 2 explained to you, you are not in charge. If you want to win this war, then you need to focus your efforts on the 3 pillars of the Democrat Party: academia, media, financiers. But to do this, we will break this into recognizable and relatable phases. I like rainbows. Phase blue. Really nothing to mention here. If all was well and peaceful with the world, then we would not be discussing this subject matter in the first place. If children were not being sexualized, if the economy wasn't being ravaged, and the nation that millions of families have bled and sweated for wasn't being dismantled, then we would be in blue. We are not in blue. Green is preparation. This is where you are now. You will focus on organizing your teams and conducting reconnaissance of future targets in your geographic footprint. If you do not know the people in your pack, then they do not belong in your pack. It almost goes without saying, but if you are part of a 300-member militia on a Facebook page, then you are already infiltrated and compromised. 5 to 10 members each is all you need for right now. Each of these individuals are people you have intimate knowledge of. If you have any questions of who any of these people are, then they need to be cut out of any planning. If you are asked to leave for any reason, then comply with the order and go form your own team. It is imperative that everyone trusts each other. On a personal level, you need to prepare yourself. A Minuteman was required to be ready and able to perform his duties without community assistance. So get in shape, acquire appropriate equipment, get your finances in order. We cannot win a war if you have to be at work on Tuesday. Some of you may consider yourselves lone wolves. All these instructions equally apply. However, more specific instructions and guidance will be released to you during the following phases. Yes, there may be several teams that develop in your area. Restrict contact. That level of coordination is unimportant at this point. For now, identify yourselves by state and then by county. For example, North Carolina, Caswell. As we move forward in phases, we will expand on that. After you build a team, start identifying and building a target list based on the 3 pillars of the enemy. Find out the college professors that are anti-American and verify. Watch the news, read the papers, and find out who are the socialist propagandists. Further, identify the Democrat financial class. Some quick notes on social media. First, stop using it for communications. I promise you, if the government tells Mark Zuckerberg to give them data, then the government will get it. Second, the only reason to engage in social media is to conduct deception and further reconnaissance. Team leaders, you need to recruit useful people, not just trigger pullers, and understand that everyone you know can be used for something useful. But when I say useful, I mean lawyers, journalists, and others. I mean local law enforcement and elected officials. You need people that are loyal to you and understand that what you are doing is for the betterment of America, and they can all do useful things. Also, ex-military officers for administration, planning, and logistics. This is important. More on this when we release Phase Yellow. Get financing from well-heeled individuals. Be discreet. Elected Republicans can actually be useful in running interference with funding restrictions. Phase Yellow, Orange, and Red. We are not going to go into tremendous detail in the last 3 phases, but I want you to know that people are thinking and planning. As we progress, additional information on organizing, planning, logistics, and such will be released. Green Phase will last up to 12 months. Get ready. What authority do we have to take action against a major political party? What rights from God or man do we have? The Democrats want to remove the Constitution so they can control every aspect of everyone's lives, and they are pushing us to civil conflict in order to achieve that. Just look at how they treat children.
Middle school students in 7th grade social studies at Challenger Middle School were asked personal questions in a survey as part of an assignment.
Those questions included things like sexual orientation and asking the students how liberal their parents were.
If you're seeing this, you've reached Classical Music is Racist TikTok. The fact that classical music, which is really the music of 18th century Western European cis straight white male composers, is valued as the highest form of art music in America is an example of white supremacy.
When it comes to our children, we will lay waste to everything that they are. We gave them an inch and they are taking miles. Our children are not sex toys for perverts. We will kill to protect them. The highest authority in a republic is the law. The republic can only function when each and every citizen is held accountable to the law. Remember the Republic of Rome? They let one man violate the law by allowing him to march an army into the capital. The next day, the Roman Republic became the Roman Empire. We are no longer a republic. When our federal law enforcement refuses to enforce the laws of the nation against those that are in elected power for their own financial gain, they are no longer law enforcement. They are political thugs and pension whores, the modern-day Gestapo. Not sold? Here are a couple examples of federal law enforcement being selective.
Filtered on Saturday night. Stan, your quick emotional reaction. I think everyone's a little emotional here about this raid.
Yeah, I mean, you think this is some third world bullshit right here.
Joe Biden's Ukraine problem boils down to a simple charge. Vice President Biden, as Ukraine point man under Obama, bribed the Ukrainian government with $1 billion US tax dollars. Biden's bribe was designed for one thing: to stop the investigation into his son Hunter and Burisma Oil, the Ukrainian company paying Hunter Biden $83,000 a month to simply sit on its board.
Kamala Harris, bail reform for Black Lives Matter.
That would encourage states to implement smart reforms to their bail systems. We've named it the Pretrial Integrity and Safety Act. Whether someone is detained before trial should be determined by whether they're a risk to their community and society, not whether they're rich.
IRS targeting conservative groups under Obama.
Attorney Jay Sekulow confirms to CBS News that IRS targeting of Tea Party groups began in 2011.
Well, when we saw the letters that the IRS had sent to our clients, I was outraged.
As chief counsel of the conservative American Center for Law and Justice, Sekulow has represented nearly 30 Tea Party groups investigated by the IRS.
FBI raiding Project Veritas journalists for Biden family diary.
But I woke up to a pre-dawn raid, banging on my door. I went to the door to answer the door, and there were 10 FBI agents with a battering ram, white blinding lights. They turned me around, handcuffed me, and threw me against the hallway. I was partially clothed in front of my neighbors. They confiscated my phone. They raided my apartment. On my phone were many of my reporters' notes.
Trump lawyers being arrested.
Shows FBI agents seizing his cell phone. Eastman says the warrant FBI agents used is, quote, invalid on its face. This is part of the Department of Justice investigation into January 6th, separate from the committee's investigation.
Pregnancy centers being vandalized.
Vandals targeted the Life Choice Pregnancy Center. Someone spray painted graffiti all over the walls with some of the same symbols that we have seen popping up elsewhere.
Hunter Biden for gun violations.
Hunter Biden's sister-in-law that they were having a sexual relationship with discarded one of his a handgun that he owned near a high school in Delaware.
Jussie Smollett, hate crime hoax.
In his first TV interview detailing his attack in Chicago that has been called a hate crime.
This MAGA country.
You are now a permanently convicted felon.
If I did this, then it means that I stuck my fist in the fears of Black Americans in this country for over 400 years and the fears of the LGBTQ community.
Congressional shooting.
Captured on cell phone video, the chilling moment that rapid gunfire broke out in Alexandria this morning.
Shots being fired, and there are people running, possibly victims involved.
66-year-old James Hutchinson targeting Republican members of Congress who were practicing for a charity baseball game.
The Marshal of the U.S. Supreme Court has asked Maryland and Virginia officials to enforce laws barring picketing outside the homes of high court justices. The top security officer says protests and threatening activity have increased at justices' homes in both states since a leaked draft of the decision to overturn Roe v. Wade.
Overt targeting and swatting of conservative media and politicians.
Timcast IRL has gotten swatted for the 9th time this year.
Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene speaking out saying that she was swatted by a 911 caller.
Raiding of Republican homes in morning hours.
New home security video shows multiple angles of the FBI's pre-dawn raid on the home of political consultant Roger Stone. Unarmed, 66 years old, without a passport, barefoot. Until now, the only public footage of the raid came from CNN, which somehow knew to arrive 1 hour before the FBI got there.
Arresting of Republican candidates and influencing elections.
Republican candidate Ryan Kelly arrested by the FBI and facing charges. Federal court documents showing photos of Kelly at the insurrection detailing what they say is his involvement.
There may come a time when the FBI and other organizations lash out and try to dismantle you. Here are some tips to mitigate the effects of this. First, never, and I mean never, talk to federal law enforcement, especially the FBI. Here's why. Need more convincing? Ask General Michael Flynn.
We begin tonight with Michael Flynn and his guilty plea. President Trump's former national security advisor admitting he lied to the FBI, arriving with his wife at federal court in Washington, already processed and fingerprinted as part of his plea. With the deal, Flynn is now agreeing to cooperate with the special counsel. Could that mean Flynn will testify against the president?
The FBI are not investigating crimes. They are ensuring that communist child molesters remain in power. We should look down on them for the moral cowards they are. Their primary strategy is raiding a house, seizing the computers, and finding child pornography.
Some intel sources came to me and told me I was likely being surveilled because of the reporting that I was doing, a lot of government watchdog reporting. Someone planted classified documents in the computer, and we were able to find forensics with great certainty as times and dates and exactly what they did. One little reported facet of my case is one of the federal agents involved in one of the operations against me said that they intended to plant child porn in my husband's computer.
They are dedicated to maintaining the power structure of Washington, D.C., so as to ensure their continued funding and existence. But in dealing with these paper tigers and glass hammers, you need to be smart. Remember always that they are not moral people. They are trying to keep their jobs, get promoted, and retire with a lucrative pension. They are going to do whatever it takes to achieve those goals. Because according to the Democrat Party and other institutions of the administrative state, the enemies of the United States are these three ideologies. Number one, white supremacy.
According to an unclassified summary of the March Intelligence Assessment, the two most lethal elements of the domestic violence extremist threat are racially or ethnically motivated violent extremists and militia violent extremists, specifically those who advocated for the superiority of the white race.
Number two, white domestic terrorism.
A unity walk in Naples meant to rally against racism was met with White Lives Matter signs.
3 words on a banner are causing quite a stir in Union City. Those words, White Lives Matter.
Well, white nationalists are holding rallies today in 2 Tennessee towns, and police are bracing for possible violence. The so-called White Lives Matter rallies are scheduled to take place in Murfreesboro and Shelbyville.
Another thing that they raised to me was a seminar that over 100 cadets attended titled Understanding Whiteness and White Rage, taught by a woman who described the Republican Party platform as a platform of white supremacy. This is going on at West Point as we speak to our future military leaders. And sir, I would encourage you, I would demand that you get to the bottom of what is going on.
When 20 people were plotting to kidnap Governor Gretchen Whitmer, 2 of them turned out to be government agents.
We're going to begin tonight with that alleged terror plot and the chilling plan. The FBI says it stopped before it could be carried out.
12 were informants.
He's the accused ringleader of the plot against Governor Whitmer, but in new court documents, his defense team says it wasn't his idea at all.
And conveniently, this took place in the middle of a presidential election. The January 6th insurrection, otherwise known as the day they walked through doors and took selfies, was also highly manipulated. Federal agents riling up a crowd in coordination with the Capitol Police Department to cause an event, according to Joe Biden, that was worse than slavery and 9/11.
The federal prosecutor for the District of Columbia says all options are on the table for charges against the mob, including sedition. Police say more than 90 people have been arrested, but what has not been answered is why the mob got inside so easily. The chief of the Capitol Police Force said tonight he's resigning.
To each of you federal agents who are so scared of losing your pensions that you will help destroy the country that you are sworn to serve, you will be held accountable for supporting an unduly elected president and risking all that was sacrificed to build this nation. The motto of the FBI is fidelity, bravery, integrity. From what you have seen in the last 15 years, does this sound like they are living up to their oath of office? They are moral cowards and oath breakers. If you are ever in the presence of an FBI agent, look them in the eye, recite their motto, and then laugh your face off until your lawyer gets there. Of course, we will get an overwhelming response from the liberal media. So what? They are already going to call you racist and misogynist and xphobe. These are not talking points or even up for discussion. This is the reality that they created and that we are reacting to. So what now? Well, you are in green phase. Get to work. Abide by the incredibly simple principles. Have a plan, no hard targets. Secure yourself against hardship and prepare yourselves to act. This message is meant to emotionally move you with facts and logic. Right now, the Democrat Party is unraveling. Its propaganda arm is compromised. Its secret police have been exposed. They will not, however, go quietly. If Donald Trump gets reelected, they know he will destroy all the hard work they have put into sabotaging America. If the election even takes place, my prediction is that if he doesn't take the hint from all their intimidation, then their only recourse will be his assassination. I would put good money on his Secret Service detail. Not only that, but at least 2 Supreme Court justices will also be murdered. Considering the media degradation, I would guess them to be Clarence Thomas and Brett Kavanaugh. Further, they will motivate one of their 3 million Antifa goons to do so and thereby wash their hands of it. Ladies and gentlemen, that is not going to happen. Proliferate the message. One of the safeguards we have and that we need to use is the jury system. Use it because they will use the courts against you. If you find yourselves challenged by law enforcement, stand down. No hard targets. Use the chance to deceive and misinform. Also, it is a golden opportunity to recruit them. Wait them out. They have a horrible record when it comes to convicting people versus simply intimidating them. There are still good people in government, so use discernment when dealing with them. Judges, bureaucrats, and others. They will do what is right. It is up to us to create the environment for them to be successful. And just because you watched a video or read a pamphlet does not give you carte blanche to act like a jackass. You are citizens of your community and of this great nation. Act accordingly with virtue and without arrogance. If you are questioned, then tell them everything. You sing like a canary, and when I say sing, you give up everyone for everything. No holds barred. Cloud the skies with disinformation. And for heaven's sake, stay off social media. If you happen to live in Canada, Australia, or Great Britain, good news. You can apply this template to your own communists. For every name that history has recorded of a man standing against tyranny, there were 10,000 that sacrificed more and were recognized less. Your names will not be recorded beyond those that know you and those that serve with you. That needs to be enough. If you are disenfranchised, disillusioned, disinherited, then we need you. We need soldiers to stand up for the futures of our countrymen and our families. And I am telling you that whether you stand with me or sit and watch your children become slaves, you are going to be a part of history. This is John Connor, signing off.
Why did the
It's the FBI, honey. It's okay. We haven't had to deal with them for quite a while. It's been 40 years now.
Well, why didn't the FBI go after the bad people?
Because they disobeyed their oaths to protect the Constitution and the rights of all Americans.
What happened next?
Well, that's when things got real interesting.